Hello, you're watching B&T TV and I'm David Hovenden.
B&T TV.
When Group M announced it would merge its two businesses, MediaCom and Essence, in April of last year, it raised headlines around the world. As of the end of January this year, that merger became a reality. With close to 10,000 staff, 120 offices around the world and more than 30 billion Aussie in annual billings, EssenceMediacom is about as big as any media agency around the world gets. On a world tour of his new subjects, Global CEO Nick Lawson took some time out during his visit to sit down with Group M's CEO Amy Buchanan to discuss EssenceMediacom's merger, the modern-day pitch process, and what it means to be a green agency in 2023. I started off by asking them, how did the idea for a merger come about in the first place?
I guess if we sort of trace back the sort of origins of the merger, we started working with Essence on a few projects, and I think those projects were the consolidation of Google. We also retained the Mars business globally with them, so we partnered with them well before. Plus, we shared a mutual client in NBC Universal, which is a global relationship. So I think over that period, it was about a year period, we became really close and we really honed the proposition when we were consolidating those projects. And that kind of best of both worlds performance with a scaled agency, great at comms planning, really worked really well in those two kind of reviews. And that's where the genesis of the merger came, I would say. And then we formalised it really when Kyoko moved to Japan to take on the WPP role. And then we kind of talked across various clients about whether the fit was good globally, and we had a great global fit. So the idea really was born from there. Then, of course, you've got to put two agencies together, and I think we made some good calls early on. We announced leadership fairly quickly, certainly global leadership.
Locally, within a couple of weeks, we brought the leadership teams together.
Yeah.
So, and I think that works really well, and then we gave ourselves enough time to really do some of the complex stuff, which is, a lot of the technical stuff, talk to all of our clients, go round our clients, ask our clients what they wanted before developing the proposition around breakthrough thinking.
I think the thing that has stood out to me in this process, having looked across the industry at a lot of mergers, is it's often a merger for size, for cost, for convenience. This is a merger of capability, and that to me is the distinguishing point and why it's a benefit to clients. It's about bringing complementary skill sets to service a client into the future, and I think that is very unique. I've never seen that in my career.
Yeah, and I think it is a unique, nothing on this scale has been done globally before under a single agency brand, right? Taking a digital first tech company with performance, real capability on a global scale with a company like MediaCom, which has built a global network over 2 decades.
Yeah.
Put together. I can't think of a single merger that's done that anywhere ever. So it's a real first.
Yeah, fantastic. Can we go back to the pitching? Can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
On film?
Sure.
So, you said some great things, Nick.
No pressure. You better say it again.
Oh no, really? I can never remember.
Well, actually,
Oh no, I don't want.
Why
I don't
don't you
want to hold
start
the
Amy,
mic.
talking about how the pitch process has changed and become more streamlined?
Look, I don't know if it was COVID that drove it, because I think pitching virtually automatically made it more succinct. You went from 3 2-hour meetings to sort of a lot shorter, more brief interaction. But I do get a sense that off the back of talent shortages that we've had over the last 18 months in the industry, that clients are truncating the process and getting a little bit more explicit in what they want generally. And we're seeing that manifest itself in, maybe it's not an expression of interest and an RFP, and it's one or the other, one brief. And I'd encourage clients to be very deliberate in that. You shouldn't need 3 briefs to test out whether it's the right agency or not. Like, one should be enough to get that answer. And if it's not, then I would question whether you're clear on what you're trying to get out of that process. But I've definitely felt it's improved in terms of the requirements in every pitch. They're not, some are worse than others, but overall I think it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah. And Nick, maybe talk about if you get 50% of your wins, let's talk
That's
about
your headline, I can tell.
Yeah.
Nick only gets 50% of his wins.
No, we'll just talk about something how the pitching brings you alive and that sort of thing, I guess.
From an agency's point of view, pitching is the process by which, is the industry standard on how we win business or not. So the majority of business across the world is pitched in some way, shape or form. So it's a competitive tender. I think clients get the most out of the process if they put the time and effort in, and they make the right choices. And I think that sometimes that has to be right, that has to be aligned with the agencies, overall. I think that we've said it before, haven't we? That I think agencies come alive in pitches. So, and that I think is because they're kind of pioneering and inventing right at that moment to try and win that business. And agencies, by their nature, are really competitive.
I'd say
so that will to win is sort of you're not in an agency if you're not competitive.
No, you've got to have a hunger to drive. I think the same thing happens. I think we tend to focus a lot on pitching, and it is the lifeblood of an agency, and it is at the moment where you see an agency come to life and the drive and the adrenaline. But you also see that, I think, in the big client reinventions or that massive brief that you get. And we're working on something in the building at the moment, and I can see the agency, it's an existing client, but it's a brief that will transform their category. And there's people, there's walls of stuff. And so I think pitching represents the best of what we do as an industry, but it does exist in other facets, and I hate for us to ignore that we do incredible work on our existing clients day in and day out. Absolutely. And that's where a lot of that goodness comes from.
I think people are at their best when they're pioneering in any form, so pitching is sort of a real expression of that. But I think where they're changing their world or changing the world for their clients in some way, shape or form, so people are at their best when they're really inventing. And kind of having gone through a merger, you sort of really see that.
Yeah, we saw it. We definitely saw it here.
You saw it on Founders Day, the excitement of it. So it's kind of right at the forefront. And agency people sort of thrive on that, I think, that level of change, particularly in media, because it's changing all the time, changing so quickly.
All right. But tell us about EssenceMediacom's carbon credentials. Very topical at the minute.
I think if we take a step back, WPP has a commitment by 2030 to get to a 50% reduction and a net neutral position, which for us locally, we've done a massive piece of work called Alpha, and we've called it Alpha because Alpha is basically all of our kids. That's the generation that they're going to be, and we want this to be something that galvanises our people around how do we leave the planet in a better place for the next generation. So we've got an amazing carbon calculator, which we've just heard that came out of a genius idea from an up-and-comer in Manchester, which is really enabling us to quantify what the carbon emissions are of a media plan for a client, which is one component. I think the other thing we've done locally is we've got an initiative called a Digital Sustainability Initiative, which we've partnered with Goodloop. Basically on 50 to 60% of our client base, we've put a green ad tag on all of our digital inventory, which we're able to then measure the carbon emissions, and we're actually at our own cost offsetting that, which has been a big piece. And I think one of the unique things about Australia is that the grids are 4 times as heavy as European grids because we're fossil fuel dependent. So 1 million digital impressions here will basically be anywhere between 8 or 9 tonnes of carbon. The average household uses 16 tonnes of carbon, so it's a fairly significant problem that we have a responsibility to address. So we're doing that through the Goodloop partnership. We've also got clients doing a carbon positive initiative where they're planting baby corals on the Great Barrier Reef to regenerate the reef, and trees with Landcare Australia. So we've got a lot happening there. Every staff member who starts with Group M now, we plant a tree for. And then we're just about to launch next week a project called My Net Zero, where we've identified that all of our good Group Mers around the country come in here, work in a fairly sustainable building, go home and behave the way that they've always behaved. So we've got this awesome program where we're going to basically get everyone to measure their own personal carbon footprint and look at how we reduce that and gamify that across the workforce. So there's a lot more to come in this space for us, but we're deeply committed to it.
Yeah, and I think if there was one topic that our people are most passionate about on the shore, it's this.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, we've had a lot of involvement, and a lot of the initiatives that we're now running are coming up through the teams there. So My Net Zero, that's come from the teams. But yeah, I think if you look back at the Group M vision, which is around making advertising work better for people, a big part of that's how do we leave the planet in a better place. And we all have a responsibility, and we're all on a journey. The other thing I'd say is I don't think anyone's got it resolved. We don't have all the answers, but we have to make action and take steps to resolve it.
Nick, can you just tell us again about the carbon calculator and how that came
Well,
to
we
be?
take a small bit of credit for that, because this is an idea that came out from a competition that Mediacom used to run, which was called If I Ran the Company. So the team in Manchester, of all the offices in the world, came up with this idea that won maybe 10 years ago. So we worked on it pretty hard as Mediacom overall, but it's been taken on and adopted by WPP and Group M, and really kind of professionalised right across the world, right? Amy was saying it was like a spreadsheet when they inherited it. It's probably true.
Not
essentially.
me. I can't take the credit for it. But the work they've
it's
done
true, yeah,
and the
it's
work
amazing.
they've done around it, creating the standards, because I think the complexity of this is where do you start measuring, where do you end?
Absolutely.
And to try and standardise that. And I think the thing that I was really proud and inspired by globally is that they've open sourced that. So they've done the methodology, they've partnered with a consultant to get that to be highly professional, but they've then given it to the industry to say, let's not reinvent the wheel 1,000 times over.
Absolutely.
Let's get some alignment as an industry on how we measure this, because it's not about going to a client going, we've got a better calculator.
Absolutely.
It's about going, let's just make a step forward to evolve and resolve the problem that we have as an industry.
Yeah. I mean, the world as a whole is really wrestling with the whole carbon emissions and environment in general. Can you and like your role as advisors on a communications point of view, sort of so for instance, car manufacturers, right? Like there's groups within society that say, oh, we'll sure stop, but no one's going to stop driving their cars, particularly in Australia, and we're not going to be an EV only cars anytime soon. And in Australia, it's still an issue because we're using fossil fuels to make our electricity, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you go about advising clients on?
We haven't got a car, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So what are the gaps?
I think for me, it's about intent.
Yeah.
Again, I think the risk in all of this is that we start going, oh, you're doing this and you're not doing that. No one's got this solved.
Yeah.
No one's perfect. No one's managing this, explicitly at 100%. And so I think it's about, do they have an intent to be better?
But the car manufacturers, they've got to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Right. So they've got to be part of the dialogue. So there's no point in making big stances here, in my view. They've got to be part of the solution, and I think most people accept that.
And actually, if you look at the work we've done across the group, the car brand that's massively lent into this is Volvo, who will have just brought forward their ambition to be completely electric. They've taken the DSI project and they're marketing it themselves. They're all on board. They're planting the baby corals and they're wanting to push that forward at the fastest rate. Probably the client that's embraced it more than anyone.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Please don't forget to give us a like and hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all episodes of B&T TV.
B&T